Brett Okamoto with ESPN alongside Megan Anderson, who takes on Zara Fan at UFC 243 this weekend in Melbourne, Australia. And Megan, I was looking at your record, and it's only been 5 months since the last time we saw you. But I feel like, when I look at some of the interviews and some of the things that you've said over the last 5 months, that a lot has happened over those 5 months. Is that fair to say?
Definitely, I think that is very fair to say. I've had a lot of growth personally in the last 5 months. I've took some time away from the gym, away from fighting, because I felt like I really needed to focus on me. My team kind of sat down, and just with an accumulation of everything, I kind of got to a point where I was just, everything was crippling me. I put so much pressure on myself. I had so much weight on my shoulders, and I feel like I really am at peace now, and I'm able to enjoy the journey without all that pressure.
Is that something that you knew was going on with you during camp, or was there a moment where it just kind of hit you and overwhelmed you a little bit?
It kind of has been building for a couple fights now, and it kind of culminated in my last fight with Felicia. And after that fight, we all sat down, and it was like something had to change. For me, that was non-MMA related. I have a lot of, I've always been open about having mental health issues and having, self-esteem issues just from, my childhood and stuff like that. But I feel like that is what I had to deal with to be able to transcend across into MMA.
I was just speaking to Tyler, and I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit, because he said that you didn't want to talk about this initially, but it sounds like such an interesting moment in this sport that I cover, that right before that fight with Felicia Spencer, that you didn't want to go out there, that you actually had to be sat down and told you didn't want to go. Can you describe what happened that morning of the fight?
Yeah, I still get a little bit emotional about it, and I put so much pressure on myself. I know what I'm capable of, and it got to a point I would just get crippling anxiety every time that I thought about fighting throughout the whole camp. And I remember getting to the fight, and it just got to a point where I didn't want to fight anymore. I didn't know if I even wanted to fight ever again. And James kind of sat me down, and we talked it over, and he's like, hey, if you wanna not fight, we can do that. It's not a big deal. I'm still gonna love you if you do that. But you're the one that has to live with yourself. Knowing that, and it was the right decision. I'm a professional, and I signed on the dotted line, so I got my shit together as best as I could and walked out. And I did not put on the best performance, and I don't want to take anything away from Felicia. She's an amazing martial artist, and she fully 100% deserves that win. And but I know that I'm capable of so much more, and I guess after that kind of moment happened, that's where we're like, okay, no, they weren't going to let me fight unless I was mentally in the right space outside of any form of martial arts or gym or whatever. In me as a person, they wanted to see changes before they would even allow me to fight again.
And how did you get there? It took about 2 months, right, away from the gym. And how did you realize that you were back to a place where you wanted to go back?
I spent 2 months completely off training. And during that time, I started talking to a mental health coach and dealing with a lot of my issues and my demons from my past that have always been there, but I've never dealt with them. I'm the type of person shove it deep down inside and never deal with it and just pretend it's not there. But it got to a point that I couldn't handle it anymore, and I would just get crippling anxiety, even just going out of my house. I just didn't want to do anything, let alone fight. And I think seeing her has been a tremendous help. We've changed the way that I train. We have a very specific plan that works so well for me. I went and did more testing at the Performance Institute, and Tyler has been phenomenal in implementing that into my training so that it can supplement my new training plan, and it can also change some of the things that we need to based on the results, so I can have improved performance. But I think it was a culmination of everything that kind of had that weight lifted off my shoulders, and I'm just ready to finally show what I know I'm capable of, that I show in the gym every day.
What do you think it's going to be like going through that experience that you just did, and then you're standing behind a curtain ready to walk out in front of 60,000 people in your home country. What is that going to feel like?
Yeah, like I know, like there's obviously going to be nerves. I think nerves are good because it means like it's something that you care about, and obviously I care a lot about this. But I think for me, it's more of like just having fun. I think I started there, and I used to have fun, and then I got away from that. I let what other people said about me affect me. I let what people wrote about me affect me, and I'm a very sensitive person when it comes to that. I care about what people think about me. I'm a people pleaser. I don't want people to be not like me and be mad at me, and like it hurt even more so when it's people that you don't know. But I finally got to a point like I can't control what I can't control, and I know when I'm standing in front of that curtain, I think it's going to be a sense of relief because I know that this is where I'm meant to be. It's been 5 years since I fought in Australia, and this has been a dream of mine for a really long time. And I think just staring out of that crowd, that I finally am the home. I finally am the home advantage. But I'm just excited to be able to do what I love on home soil.
Well, I'm looking forward to that moment for you, obviously. But I got to ask you one more question, and it's a question that comes up every time that you get interviewed. But now the circumstances have changed, and that for years, people wondered if Chris Cyborg was no longer in the UFC, would the division exist anymore? And so far it does. She's not in the UFC. This fight is happening. What is your thoughts on the state of the division now? You've talked about it a lot over the last few years.
Yeah, I think, there's always been criticism about like not having a division and is it going to like last and stuff like that. But this is my 4th fight in 16 months. So if there wasn't going to be a division, I wouldn't be so active. And I think that kind of speaks to like the UFC is invested. I know Mick is doing a really good job. He's trying to find people and trying to bring them in. And that's also another thing. I would put the pressure of like holding the division up on my shoulders because I'm like, there's only a few of us. I have to like win to keep it going. I'm like, I can't control that. If they're going to cut it, they're going to cut it, and I'll find another place to fight. Like obviously, I would love to fight in the UFC because it's always been a dream of mine. But if they happen to be like, no, like we can't, like there's no one, like I would be okay with that because it's out of my control. But I think that I think the whole Chris deal shouldn't affect the division just because like one person isn't a division. A division consists of a lot of different people, and I think they do have some stars that they can build in this division. Obviously, my start hasn't been the best. I know I'm 1 and 2, and like I can't really make a lot of demands, and I'm not really in a position to do much. So like I'm just here to work and show them that I will sign on the dotted line every time that they send me a fight. Like I don't turn down fights. I don't like say no, and I don't want to like be like, oh, I don't want this card, but I'll take this card. Like I'm very like you give me a name.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports and analysis, download the ESPN app, and for live streaming and special content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.